I tend to typically go over time, so I'll try and keep this all within 8 minutes for Justin's sake, and we'll try and get through this as quickly as possible. So before I begin, I just want to quickly thank Cal, Justin and Brian for organising today's event and for allowing me and all the other speakers to come and talk to you all. When I was in high school, I never really had a chance to speak with this many university students and graduates, so hopefully we can give you a bit of an insight as to what we do, and you can hopefully learn a few things from us as well, okay? So to begin, my name is Michael. I am a fifth year engineering student from the University of New South Wales, and I study Aerospace Engineering and Commerce. Okay, cool. So, can you summarize your degree in a few sentences? When you look at that term Aerospace Engineering is a very specialized engineering stream. Okay, so not all universities actually offer aerospace. Some schools teach a mechanical engineering degree, that's quite common, but aerospace is a very specialized degree. So when you take that specialized degree of aerospace, you still have to break it down into two more parts. Within aerospace, you can go into the more aeronautical side of things, looking at vehicles that fly within the atmosphere, or if you're really interested, you can go into astronautical, looking at things that fly beyond the atmosphere. Okay? That brings me on to my next point, which is if you do want to study aerospace engineering, especially at UNSW, if you're someone that really likes space travel and all that type of stuff, unfortunately, you're not going to really get that at UNSW. Okay, so the aerospace degree at UNSW is more so aeronautical. So you look at planes, you look at rotary aircraft, etc. So first picture is a Boeing A380, not Qantas, Airbus A380, sorry, and then the bottom picture is a rocketry team that we have at uni. So aeronautical and astronautical. So what does your degree look like day to day? Now, in all these degrees that you're going to be studying, you do have to do all the boring stuff. You have to go to your tutorials, you have to do textbook questions, stuff that you kind of do in high school, so learning content, answering questions, etc. That's still very relevant at uni, but me telling you that is not really constructive, so what I wanted to do is give you a little bit of a more interesting picture on what I do when you go higher up in your degree. So two things that I've been able to do in my fourth and fifth year of study is I've been able to work on automotive aerodynamics, so that's looking at race cars, building aerodynamic bodywork for race cars, etc. And also building planes and designing planes. So in my fifth year of study, I was able to design an aerobatic aircraft for the Red Bull Air Race. So we didn't get to build it. It was a conceptual idea that we had to propose. So if you had to select an engine, what engine would you pick? What airfoil would you pick? How would you design the wings? How would you structurally design the aircraft such that it can withstand a 10G load? Okay, so that's what I've been able to do. Okay, so when you compare uni to high school, the first thing that you're going to get is that uni, especially if you're going to go into something that's more STEM, is a lot more difficult than high school. So it's a lot more difficult, it's a lot more work, but it's also a lot more interesting. Okay, so if you've actually picked something that you really want to do, you're going to find it's going to be quite fulfilling, but also very difficult at the same time. Also, the stuff that you've learned in high school in regards to STEM, the knowledge that you get from that is quite basic, so you don't really get to apply much in many different areas. But when you go to uni, the stuff that you do learn is applicable. So sometimes you hear uni students say that whatever you learnt at university is useless because you don't get to apply it. That's quite untrue, especially in engineering. What you do in the classroom is directly transferable to industry because that's what the degree is supposed to do for you. Okay, so like I said, I've worked on open wheel race vehicles, so designing open wheel race cars, so designing suspension, designing aerodynamic bodywork, but I've also been able to work in the shipbuilding industry as well. So in November, I worked with McConaughey Boats, and they build yachts and stuff like that. So it's about taking that stuff that you've learned in the classroom and applying it to a high level in industry. Okay, so why did I pick my degree? As an individual overall, I am heavily STEM orientated, so I can't really see myself doing anything else besides STEM. So I couldn't see myself working as an accountant, for example, definitely not. So that's another tip for you guys. Try to picture yourself and see what you can do in, say, like 15 years. Can you actually see yourself working as an accountant? Or can you see yourself working as a broker? Because for me, I definitely can't do that, okay? I'm also someone that is heavily fascinated and interested by STEM and engineering. So this is the first reason why I chose my degree. And the second is because I enjoy things that fly. So things that fly and things that move in the sky greatly interest me. If you're someone that doesn't necessarily have this interest, picking an aerospace degree might be a bit more difficult because you could have gone for just say like a normal mechanical engineering degree, which is not so difficult. All right. So picking aerospace is a heavily difficult degree. All right. What type of person would I recommend this degree to? Someone that enjoys STEM. So if you're someone that gets fascinated by STEM, you understand the importance of science and engineering, I would believe that this degree is quite important to you or quite relevant to you. And also if you're someone that just typically enjoys things that fly. So things that fly within the atmosphere or out of the atmosphere. I think that will greatly align with your interest as well. Okay. All right. So what career paths can you do with an aerospace degree? Now, for anyone that does an aerospace degree, if you were to ask them what do you want to do, they'll probably show you something like this. Okay, you want to work at BAE Systems, you want to work at Boeing, you want to work at Northrop Grumman, etc. Now in Australia, there are opportunities with these companies, but maybe not so much NASA and SpaceX. We don't really have that much of an influence here. But for all the other companies, you do find opportunities here in Australia. Okay, whether you get a job at these companies or not is a different story because they're very competitive. But the opportunities are there. You just have to be ready to grab them. So that comes through your application, that comes through networking, etc. So I've applied for Boeing probably 6 times. I've been rejected all 6 times. But now I work for BAE Systems. So stuff you Boeing, I'm working for BAE now. Okay. How did I get my job at BAE? Well, I got rejected 3 times with BAE Systems, but I knew someone that worked at BAE. So I was able to network with them and they got me a foot in the door, and that's how I got in. All right. So it's not going to be very easy to work for these companies, but if you're really passionate, you're going to be able to find a way. Okay. You're always going to be able to find a way. Now, like all STEM degrees, if you do study aerospace engineering, you're not just limited to these companies. You can go into a whole bunch of other different areas. For example, you can work in automotive engineering or automotive aerodynamics. A lot of my friends have gone to work in the automotive industry, especially in vehicle design. So they've set up like their own little aerodynamic consulting work where they build aerodynamic kits for time attack cars and stuff like that. Some of my friends now work at Renault, so Renault F1. So we do have, you can move to those different areas. Just because you study aerospace doesn't mean that you have to work within the aerospace domain. You can go into different areas. David would have mentioned earlier that one particular industry is the wind engineering industry. So as a civil engineer, you do have people that work in wind engineering, but I know more aerospace people that work in wind engineering than actual civil engineers. Okay, so does anyone actually know what wind engineering is, or what it encompasses? Airbender?
The wind tunnels?
The wind tunnels, yes, you do a lot of wind tunnel testing. So basically, when it comes to urban planning, and you need to try and figure out where you're going to be putting structures and buildings, you also need to be aware on how the air is going to interact with that environment. So if you have some, like, maybe you guys would have noticed as well, when you walk through a city, and then you walk through like a particular gap, you might get like blown over by a gust of wind or something like that. That's an example of poor wind engineering. So because of the way the buildings have been structured, it makes it dangerous for people to walk in the streets because they'll get blown over by winds and stuff like that. So you can move into that area. All right. Common misconceptions about your degree. If you do aerospace engineering, you're not going to get a job. That's totally false, okay? Everyone that I know that has done aerospace engineering has ended up in a job somewhere. You might not be working for these companies, okay? But some people have gone into the automotive industry, some people have gone into the wind industry, etc. So you will eventually find something if you're persistent enough, okay? You're gonna find a job, don't worry. You're not gonna be broke relying on Centrelink, okay? You will have a job. The second misconception is that you're an aerospace engineer, so you get to work on all the cool stuff, okay? That's also incorrect. In Australia, we don't have a lot of cool projects in aerospace engineering, so you're not going to be designing the next Falcon Heavy, or you're not going to be designing the next generation fighter aircraft. Unfortunately, we just don't have that industry here in Australia. If you decide to go to America or the US or Europe, you would find those industries there, but in Australia, not so much. So you're kind of stuck with the boring stuff, okay? So this is basically my slide to wrap up now. One tip of advice that I'll give to you is to try and learn how to articulate yourself well. So when you go to uni, you're going to be meeting a lot of strangers, you're going to be meeting a lot of new people. You need to learn how to talk to people, and you need to learn how to get your point across from A to B. Okay, so you're going to be going to job interviews, you're going to be meeting strangers, meeting new friends. You're going to have friends that have strangers that you're going to have to talk to as well. So learning how to articulate yourself is a good skill to have. And I think that wraps up my presentation. Does anyone have any questions and answers? Yep.
Oh, you know that the open wheel race car
you're
talking about? Is that the one you guys put together if you want to study?
Yeah, so we have a team of several departments and we all collaborate together to build an open wheel race car, and we compete every year.
Do you have to do aerospace engineering to be part of that project?
No, so you can be a mechanical engineer, you can be a civil engineer. There are some people in the team that study medical science and they just have an interest in automotive engineering. So they're also part of that team. Whatever you want, you can go into it.
Design course?
Sorry?
What if you did design or something, or not related to engineering?
You can still join. So with this particular team, Redback Racing, which is UNSW's team, anyone can join. You're not limited just by your degree. So you can join if you want to. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's my time to finish up, so it's been 10 minutes. If you have any questions, you can talk to me afterwards.